Hello, my name's Amanda Vickers and I'm currently studying theatre arts at Derby University. I'm here to interview James Holmes, who plays Gus in The Dumb Waiter, which is currently on Derby Live at the Guildhall Theatre. Hello, how do you feel that the performance is going so far?
Well, we've got one more preview, so we've been previewing since Thursday, and this is now Monday. So I've never done so many previews before.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite a solid show. If you'd asked me probably about a week
later.
before that, I'd be panicking. But it seems in pretty solid shape, considering we haven't actually properly opened until tomorrow.
Could you tell me a bit about the rehearsal process and what type of things you did?
Well, our time was split between, or Esther's time, the director's time was split between our play and A Kind of Alaska. So we were sort of doing half days, which is quite unusual.
Yeah.
But we sort of, I don't know, because Pinter, because it's there's a lot of comedy in it, and also there's a lot of drama in it. But on the surface, it's all quite mundane. We sort of went down various avenues. We sort of went down the first of all just doing it in a kind of sort of everyday, naturalistic way. And Esther pointed out it was like watching Big Brother. You know, they just let the cameras on. You know, they just let the cameras on in the house because it was a bit. If you just play it like that, then it's quite dull. Then we went down the comedy angle. I went far too far down the comedy angle, and it just became a grotesque parody. and then we tried doing it with all the drama and all the backstory, and then that was also quite turgid. But then if you put it all together, I think you just have to do what, maybe you don't, but we went through all these different permutations.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of, and of course Pinter's very specific on his, on where people pause and where silences are, which a lot of writers aren't, or you don't feel you have to be respectful of, new writers, because they're new. But Pinter, you feel kind of, so if we went down all these different, being over-referential and not being reverential enough, and then I think you just have to, and then we just ended up with what we had in the end, which I think was probably the best of all, hopefully.
Yeah. How did playing Gus compare to other roles you've played in the past, and did you find him a challenge?
It is a challenge in a way. Well, because mainly I am used to doing new writing in theatre, and so I never always wanted to do Pinter. It's like since I was about 16, some of the first plays I ever read were Pinter.
Yeah.
But I'd never done anything. I'd done sort of American classic stuff, but I'd never done Pinter, and it is very sort of specifically written.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge. It was a challenge in that way, and I've done a lot of most television stuff I've done has been comedy, and there is comedy in this. And they say that can be kind of a red herring if you rely too much on the comedy stuff. So. But I think by its nature, Pinter it's a bit enigmatic, it's a bit cryptic until you actually land on it, and then it all kind of falls into place and makes sense. So it was challenging in that.
Acting techniques to connect with the character.
I sort of have a kind of spit and rubber bands approach. I'll use like anything I can. I mean, I had one sort of Eureka moment when I was at drama school. We had an actor, he wasn't a teacher, an actor called Ken Colley, who you probably wouldn't know, but you'd know him if you saw him, he's one of those actors. And the bit of advice he gave us was learn your lines until you know them completely backwards, till you're sick of saying them. And don't figure out how you're going to say your first line. So know everything. So know everything on one hand, but don't try and figure out anything on the other hand. And that was sort of a Eureka moment for me. That kind of I tried that, and that's the thing that made most sense. And then, sort of more recently, I've sort of dipped in and out of doing a bit of Meisner, the Meisner technique, which is really a fascinating process. And then you come to like rehearsal play and all that actually goes out the window.
Yeah, I don't actually
whatever works. But it wasn't. I tend to try everything.
Yeah.
Really. You just get desperate and everything goes into the kitchen sink.
I read that you and Joe Tucker, who plays the character of Ben in the play, have worked together prior to The Dumb Waiter.
Yeah.
Do you think that this helped you to create a more realistic partnership on stage?
I think so. I mean, I think it's odd because we worked together 10 years ago, and we've been mates since then. And I suppose there is just a familiarity. I thought it would be weird having had a decade off from working together, but it does feel quite. I think now, probably more than in rehearsal. In rehearsal I just assume we've got this fabulous chemistry and it will be fine. And then I don't think I just ignored it for the first 2 weeks. didn't actually bother acting with him. But it's now we're sort of fine tuning, and now we're actually up and running.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think there is a sort of a shorthand, as they say. The actors with the cliches. But yeah, no, it is. I think it's good to have had that history.
How do you feel about the dumbwaiter and the kind of Alaska being performed as a double bill?
I think it's really interesting because it's like Pinter at the early part of his career, and then Pinter quite late on, and there's like a real, there's a sensibility that goes through it. Within that, you couldn't get two more different plays, and to have them both on the same stage in the same evening, I think is really fascinating. Thanks.
Okay. What do you think makes a dumbwaiter an entertaining piece of theatre to see, and how do you think it will appeal to a wide range of theatregoers?
Well, you'd never guess that The Dumbwaiter was written 50 years ago. I was kind of shocked when I realised, because it's really tense, it's really edgy, and it's really funny. It's a little bit like, it's got a lot in common with the sort of the gangsters, the hitmen you see in Pulp Fiction. There's burger conversations on that downtime, but then there's that twist of violence. So I think that's a real modern appeal, even though it is of its time.